So my wife and I were heading up to Silverton, got a new lens I want to test out, and that is the Canon 28 to 70 millimeter 2.8. We're going to test it against some of my others because if I keep it, I got to sell a couple others to pay for it. So we're going to put it through its paces and hopefully it's going to beat them out. All right, here we are at what's been dubbed the most famous cabin in Colorado lately. The colors are all gone, the leaves have dropped, but we're here shooting our first pictures with the 28 to 70 2.8. Figured this would be a good spot to test it out. We got stuff in the foreground, middle ground, and background. Test sharpness, so we're gonna shoot some shots with this at all its focal lengths and break out some of the other lenses, give them a compare. Here we are back in the studio. Before I dive into these pictures, let's talk a little bit about this lens. It is a 28 to 70 great focal length. It is a set 2.8 aperture, which is pretty fast glass. It has weather sealing, something Canon has never done on a non-L series lens. It has some optics borrowed from the L series lens, and it is addressing the issue of focus breathing for video. And that's all the things that have drawn me to it. I hear that it's sharp all the way across, but let's see for ourselves. Let's dive in here and check it out. So here's our first image. This is the 28 millimeter focal length on the 28 to 70 lens. Let's give it a quick scroll through. And it is sharp even down in the corners. Way in the corners are just a little bit soft, but I mean not much. Look at those branches. That's pretty dang sharp. So let's go ahead and compare that to the 24 millimeter prime that I have. We'll come over here to comparison. So on the right will be our 28 to 70, and on the left will be our prime lenses that we're comparing it to. All these were shot at the same settings. Tried to keep my focal lengths as close as possible. Obviously 24 and 28 is a little different, and in every image I focused right on the cabin out here. And looking at the two, it's not quite exactly fair because one came in a little closer at 28 and one is 24. That is pretty close. Let's check out our corners. So the prime on the left, the new lens on the right. If I'm looking at these trees, this kind of red branch from a willow here, I have to give just a slight edge to the new lens. Especially look at these trees here. I can see a lot more detail in the new 28 to 70. It's probably those optics they borrowed from the L series glass. Let's check out our background. It's a little hard to say because there was some haze, but I'm still feeling like the 28 to 70 is sharper. A little harder to tell in the background. I think that's because some haze and clouds blowing through. If we look here on this hilltop, definitely seeing more definition on the new lens. But it also looks like there might be some little fog or something there. So all in all, slight edge to the 28 to 70, except for in focal length. I love that 24 millimeter focal length. But the 28 isn't that different. I mean, come on, I could take 2 steps backwards. Let's dive on over to the next picture. Start full image on the new lens. Let's dive into our little cabin, barn. Everybody's taking pictures of this thing now. And that is, once again, sharp. So we're at the 35 millimeter now. It's taking my computer a second to buffer here. And that is sharp as well. Making sure we're recording. Back in the background. And I'm happy. Let's compare it. So we've got 35 versus 35. I love the 35mm prime. That is comparable. Let's go ahead and check our corners out. And the new lens is actually sharper. That's a little surprising. Just a tiny bit. I'm looking at the trees and the grass. I'm seeing a little more detail on the right. Not hugely noticeable. Let's check out this hill over here. The right is just a tiny bit sharper. And same thing here in the background. I'm seeing more detail in this hilltop back here. So once again, a slight edge to the new lens. I mean, if you weren't pixel peeping, you wouldn't notice. And let's move on to the 50mm focal length. Just with the 28-70. And that is tack sharp. I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and hop into a comparison. And I see a slight difference here, edging towards the new lens. Barely noticeable. Let's look back at our background. There is a difference. I can see more detail in the background on the 28-70 in the hilltop and in these dead pine trees. Much less blurry, easier to see individual tree trunks. So a slight edge once again to the new lens without pixel peeping. I won't notice a whole lot of difference. So far I'm pretty happy. I would say that primes are usually better, but this 28-70 with its new optics is keeping up with these prime lenses. So I got one more, and that is the 70mm. I could have compared it to my 80, but that's one of the lenses I'm selling. Haven't been happy with it. 80mm f2. I hear there's some good ones and some bad ones. I think personally, I got a bad one. I'll know. I'm going to sell it to some company, let them try and figure it out. Because it misses a lot. I took it out on a portrait shoot. Done a lot of portraits. I've never missed that much. And for video, it's just loud and the focus is so slow. So I didn't do a comparison there, but let's see what this lens looks like at 70mm. And once again, it just impresses. That is a really sharp lens. Really sharp. I shot all of these at f9, 250th of a second. ISO 100, kept the settings the same on all of them. And I have to say, I'm pretty happy that it kept up with the primes, and in most cases it edged a little bit better. We're at the old depot now. I'm going to shoot a little photography, test out 2.8, see how good it looks, how sharp the camera is at 2.8. Let's hop into these depot photos now. I didn't do comparisons here. Figured the last test should tell us, you know, which lenses are sharper or not as sharp. I wanted to see how this thing handled 2.8, because if it is sharp at 2.8, I'll be thrilled, because I know my primes. I had to stop down to that to get them really tack sharp. And just looking at this first image, that is clean. Because it's 2.8, I'm going to go right to where I focused at and see how sharp it is at that point. Shallow depth of field, obviously, it's not going to be sharp elsewhere. I shot this depot a lot, and that looks good. It is such a clear picture. Even the color rendition is really just clean looking. It's taking it a second to buffer here using OBS, and I have DaVinci open and Lightroom. My computer's lagging down a little bit, but that is sharp as well. I am happy with that. Another just sharp photo, really clean colors. Here we got the depot. Looking here at the background, it's got some really nice bokeh, really soft and creamy. This is one of my favorite images I took. And look at this. Talk about sharp. Look at those individual nail heads. I mean, you could sit there and count them. You can see paint peeling. You can see everything. I'm really happy with that. All right, time for the big test. Here comes the train. Be here shortly. All right, the train came in and we popped the couple off of it. Also at 2.8. I focused right in here on the 493, and that is clean. Look at the detail. That is a sharp lens. So we looked at our photos. So far I'm really happy. Let's hop out into the living room in the yard, shoot a little bit of video, and we want to compare this to my favorite lens, which I know is my sharpest and cleanest. That's the 35mm 1.8. If it compares to that, I say we got a keeper. So I put this montage together, and I think you guys are going to be shocked. Not only did this lens perform as good as the 35mm 1.8, it blew it out the water. This was the biggest surprise. I mean, it's almost like the 35mm had cataracts, that little kind of soft haze. I've had it on all my lenses up until now. I thought that was C-Log 3. I thought it was something in there. But this new lens, it looks really clean, really gorgeous. I'm going to play the clip here for you guys at full resolution. I have it labeled what's C-Log 35, what is C-Log 28 to 70. Then I have it in color space 709, and then I have it with just the film look creator on there. Obviously my computer's not fast enough to play this in DaVinci, which is already kind of hard, and record at OBS at the same time. But I'll piece it all here together for you guys, let you just check it out with some tunes, and just know that I am keeping this lens. I am ecstatic with it. I'm really happy. All right, guys, thanks for watching.